Ladies and gentlemen, this is the captain speaking. Welcome on board your Pan American Clipper. We're ready for takeoff, so please sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight.
Pan Am's reputation in the airline industry today, it's almost mythological. It's like Camelot. It has this aura, this glamour around it. That was the glory days. That was when it was really cool.
And you know, when you think about Pan Am, how we started with what I would call a crop duster, going from Key West to Havana with a couple of bags of mail. From there, it went to 6 continents, carrying millions of passengers, sipping champagne and watching movies. Pan Am is huge.
The story of Pan Am is not just about a company in one place at one time. It's a story of Mr. Tripp and his vision, and a group of employees that held that same vision. Dreaming is a necessary thing for moving a culture forward. We'd still think the world was flat if it weren't for dreamers.
Pan Am pioneered aviation to where we reach today.
Every modern thing that came out, Pan Am would buy one of them to try it out. They were the leader of the pack in aviation in those days. I mean, I loved coming to work because it was new every trip.
If you worked for Pan Am in whether it's South America, Africa, Europe, Asia, wherever, you were considered working for a very prestigious company.
The company was the cream of the crop of airlines.
The aesthetic, the glamour, the appreciation that people had for that airline, both the customers and the employees, it's really the highest standard that we have anymore.
Pan Am really set the bar high and we all excelled to it. It made it a joy to be there.
It changed our family financially, because if I wanted to buy a house and they said I worked for Pan American, they pushed the papers aside and no problem, I could get the loan.
Working for Pan Am opened up the world to me.
I also like to see how it affected my children. They are such sophisticated people now in that they know the world, they follow the world.
I think growing up a Pan Am legacy gave me a different perspective on life in general. It gave me an awareness of how big the world is.
Further on with my children, we traveled all over the world, and I see the difference. They know about the world.
My time with Pan Am really truly made me a citizen of the world.
Pan Am was a way of life.
Yes, Pan Am enriched the lives of these people, but there are tens of thousands of other Pan Am employees around the world, as well as millions of passengers over the course of 60 years whose lives were enriched by their association with Pan Am. Our founder, Juan Tripp, a commercial aviation pioneer, visionary, and entrepreneur, had a dream to make the world smaller and provide air travel for all. He created an airline that became one of the most iconic airlines of our time. But he was also an innovator, having been instrumental in the development and production of the Boeing 314 Clipper, famously known as the Flying Boat, used in making Pan Am the first airline to cross the Pacific. The Boeing Stratocruiser, the aircraft that helped to pioneer pressurized cabins. The Boeing 707, launching the jet age, cutting flight time almost in half, introducing lower fares and carrying more passengers than ever before. And finally, the Boeing 747, the jumbo jet queen of the skies. Pan Am's pivotal partnership role in developing the 747 is an unmatched accomplishment by a single airline. The jumbo jet introduced more people in more countries to jet travel and launched an age of jet travel unsurpassed in aviation history. A truly lasting legacy indeed. It is now up to us to remember that vision, to preserve it, and to preserve the history of Pan Am for others to know. It is our story to tell, and only we can tell it. We must not leave it for others. Our story must be told firsthand, with first-person experience. Won't you help? Now is the time, and we must move quickly to preserve the wonderful legacy that lives still today in each of us. We must act now, before it is too late. There's a lot of work to do. Even though Pan Am does not exist as a company, the spirit of Pan Am is alive and well. The iconic brand remains popular to this day and still attracts the attention and admiration of many. Pan Am lives and flourishes in each of us. We listen to you tell your stories. We see the spirit that exists even after 25 years. We must keep that spark and spirit alive for future generations. So consider this our clarion call. We need your help. Tell your friends, get involved. Donate time, donate artifacts, donate money. Help us to remember and pay tribute to the company that enriched the lives of so many.
I studied history in college, and for me, Pan Am was the U.S. history, the U.S. airline to the world. It introduced the world to the United States.
And to have a museum where people that don't know could come to see artifacts and memorabilia and parts and pieces of airplanes, that it would put it together for them, and they say, wow, they did all that.
Delta and American, I believe, have museums. And of course, they're still operating. And so that makes it even more of a challenge for us because we're not operating anymore, obviously. And that's even more of an incentive and a challenge to put that together. And the foundation is going at it, and I'm sure that at the museum that we should have, we will have.
Fellow Pan Amers, we had a wonderful and rich life together. It's time for it to be carried forward so that future generations can know the wonderful history of Pan Am and how we span the globe. It's time for all of us to come together and support this effort.
If you can open your wallets and your hearts, that would help us immensely, because we're all getting older. It's hard to believe 25 years have passed, and now is the time for us to move forward.
Pan Am is a legend, and I hope that we can continue to keep the memory of Pan Am, the pioneer in aviation for our country, alive.
This history of this airline has to be preserved, not only for us today, but for future generations. We were the best, and we need to make that known forever, really, forever.
Without each one of us doing what we can to keep the memory alive, it's not going to stay alive, it's going to fade. Some of us, may have the opportunity to donate time. Some of us may have the opportunity to donate memorabilia and artifacts that we have in our own personal collection. Whatever it is that you have that you can give to the cause, we'd certainly appreciate it.
Pan Am. You can't beat the experience.